Oh. Oh. It was leg day yesterday. Look, you might be somebody who's really sore right now and you're searching for some way to finally alleviate it, or maybe you're somebody who experiences soreness quite often and just in general you want to know how to reduce it, what actions you can take in order to help with that, reduce that to increase performance, increase muscle gain, increase strength and all that. So in today's video, that's what we're covering. What's going on YouTube? It's Coach John back again, repping Beyond the Iron, where I drop weekly fitness content on this channel that you get to your fitness goals faster and more enjoyably. If you're interested in doing so, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button below, and hit that notification bell so you know when the next one drops. And as always, be sure to go ahead and check out the other 400 plus videos I have on the channel, covering basically everything you ever need to know when it comes to fat loss and muscle gain. And also follow my Instagram, and you can send me any questions you might have there and I'll respond to you. I'm also going to be dropping the most important recovery tip at the end of the list of tips I'm going to give you to recover. So stay tuned for that. So first and foremost, you got to understand that what you're experiencing, that soreness, that penguin walk soreness, that soreness where it hurts to push the door open or even curl your arm up, hold something up for 2 seconds, is delayed onset muscle soreness. And obviously this came from a workout that you did either the day prior or even a few days prior. Delayed onset muscle soreness, from what we know, is essentially going to be because of some micro tears, in other words little tears in the muscle group that you worked due to the excess load or volume that you stimulated it with in that workout. Now the extent of these tears and or volume that you use to accumulate and create them is essentially going to typically be the extent of the soreness you feel. So a lot of people will absolutely demolish their legs, for example. I tend to do this from time to time, and as a result your legs are usually quite sore. As opposed to a lighter session, you're probably not going to feel as much muscle soreness. And it's also important to note that muscle soreness is often more directly correlated to heavier loads or higher intensities rather than lighter loads or lower intensities. So for example, doing something for 100 reps set at a decently low weight usually doesn't elicit as much muscle soreness as heavier loads for a more moderate rep range. It's also important to note you don't have to be destroying your body because I know a lot of people out there are actually chasing the muscle soreness and think that by not getting sore or that sore that they're not making as much progress, when in reality there's actually a certain line in the sand, if you will, when it comes to soreness. In other words, sometimes if you're a little bit too sore, it could be indicative of actually doing too much for your body to adapt positively and rather just adapt back to where it was before because you damaged the muscle so much. So that's something important, and I'm going to touch a little bit more about that at the end. Of course, if you never experience muscle soreness, then that's kind of the other side of that spectrum. If you're anything like me, you like to put yourself in the gym, chances are it's going to be something that you're going to feel quite regularly throughout your life. So let's go ahead and cover some basic but very effective ways to ultimately reduce muscle soreness. I don't think it's possible to say that we can completely eliminate it, nor do we want to, because again, it is still somewhat indicative of making progress and the fact that we actually worked out hard enough to make that progress in most cases. So the first one is something that's very basic but kind of overlooked, and that is stay trained. You didn't see this one coming. A lot of people are like, stay trained, what do you mean? Well, the fact of the matter is people are very inconsistent with their training, and a lot of people that might have clicked on this video are people that just started working out either for the first time ever or for the first time off of a long hiatus, which they tend to do quite often. So they're wondering, how do I reduce this insane muscle soreness every time I get back into the gym? And the key is, don't leave the damn gym. Seriously though, just this alone is going to help reduce muscle soreness over time, or at least increase your tolerance and your ability to work with this muscle soreness if need be. The next point is going to be slow and proper progression in the gym. So let's assume that you are trained and that you are consistently trained over a long period of time. That's great, but on top of that, like I mentioned before, you don't want to be one of these people that just chases the ultimate soreness. Instead, you should have a very well-structured program that allows you to progress appropriately, which is typically obviously more slower than fast, and in a way that makes sure that your body can actually adapt positively over time. And when you do this over time, you will actually experience soreness less often and less intensely. Third tip is something you can actually add in here, and that's myofascial release, which is really just a fancy way of saying self-massaging. Now, this can be done with your own fingers, hands, if you can reach that area. It can also be done with a lacrosse ball or a foam roller. This actually has a pretty good amount of data behind it to suggest that it could help with reducing the inflammation, allowing more blood flow to the area, breaking down certain chemical buildup that has created or been a part of this soreness. And so that's definitely something you can look into doing. Myofascial release. If you don't have a foam roller yet, it can definitely help certain areas like the quads, I find, some of the back, the chest, the arms a little bit, these types of things. Another thing that I typically do, if I feel sort of a soreness that you feel when you sort of pull something, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say you should do this, but something I find, for example, I've got a tight brachialis right now that's getting in the way of some lifts. I find the spot that's very tender or sore, and I actually apply some pressure to that area, and I find that it helps kind of break it down, relax it, open it up, and helps it recover over time. So that's another thing. If you got a really sore muscle, you know, instead of just rolling it back and forth, you could also roll the foam roller on a spot that kind of you're really feeling that soreness, and you can hold it there until it kind of releases, relaxes the tissue, breaks down those chemicals that I spoke about earlier. The fourth tip is going to be something so overlooked but so crucial to helping with recovery but also reducing injury, and that is stretching. That's right, I'm talking daily stretching. Don't just stretch when you're sore, because the less you stretch over that period of time that you're lifting weights, the tighter you're going to be. The tighter you are, the less those muscles quote unquote breathe or have proper oxygen and blood flow going to them when they need it. Also, of course, it's going to increase your chance of injury over time, which is never a good thing. So I've found that stretching definitely, and just being more flexible in general from constantly stretching, in other words, making sure it's a more preventative measure instead of a reactive measure, being more flexible and stretching when you're sore, even after a workout when you think you're going to be crazy sore. If you keep that daily stretching routine up for, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes a day, I find that it helps quite a bit. Now, for the most important thing that's going to help you in recovery, and hilariously enough, it's something that, one, most people don't do or prioritize, and two, it's something that all these recovery freaks that are trying to add in all these different gadgets and gimmicks don't realize is 10 times more potent than everything else combined, and that is sleep. That's right, appropriate sleep. Now, you might be bored, you might be like, oh, I didn't come here for this, but think about it. Do you get quality sleep? And if so, how much quality sleep? You see, it's actually been found that you might need up to 9 or even 10 hours of sleep if you lift a lot of weights, okay? That's simply because of the extra required deep sleep we need to repair those muscle tissues. However, of course, that may not be practical for a lot of us out there. I know it isn't for me, but it's just to show how important it is to prioritize sleep in general. And please understand once again that sleep is 10 times more potent than all of the other things I mentioned, plus all the other gimmicks, all combined into one. Sleep will outdo it all. It is the ultimate recovery process, and if you're not sleeping enough, you're going to be more sore more often, you're going to perform worse as a result, and it's going to be a never-ending loop. So make sure you're prioritizing your sleep. Now, a few things I want to go over is some of these gimmicks or some of these myths about recovery. Not necessarily a myth, but supplementation you can take has always been touted, like L-glutamine, creatine. There's even studies that suggest caffeine taken before the workouts can help reduce muscle soreness to an extent, but you have to understand that they are negligible at best, at least when compared to the main foundation of your recovery routine, which is, of course, sleep, stretching, and another thing that could help a lot is being active on that day. So some active recovery can be quite beneficial, and that simply just means being active on your rest days, whether that's going for a walk, a jog, or whatever the case is, something very light that's not going to tax your body, but can help with circulation, which is of course important for recovery. So supplements, I wouldn't worry too much about them. You can take them, but do not take them until the foundation of your recovery is there first. Next, you're going to get all these equipment freaks and people trying to sell you on the cryotherapy and the ice bath and these cool gimmick gadgets gadgets. Instead of just a lacrosse ball you can buy for $2, nope, buy this crazy looking ball that you can stick to the wall for $20 or whatever the case is. Again, these things are very supplemental, so much so to the point where it's usually not worth the money. Remember, the key about recovery is the following. I laid out the foundation and some important tips that can help you with it. Just remember this. Recovery is about doing less, not more. You don't add more things to do to the routine to recover better. You take things away. In other words, it could be a rest day. It could be taking away some time in your workout, dedicating it more towards sleep. You will grow faster, you will recover better, and you will perform better as a result. So again, recovery is about doing less, not more. And make sure you've got adequate rest days in your routine. Make sure you're sleeping enough. Make sure you're stretching daily. And that way you will have a preventative measure, though not completely preventative, because of course, not only do we not know how to completely prevent muscle soreness, but a lot of us meatheads out there, I don't think that we want to, as we secretly love it inside. So that's something to keep in mind. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. Any other topics you want to know, comment them below. Anything else you do for recovery that you feel like has helped a big time for you as well, please comment that below. Don't forget to share with your friends and subscribe, because I'm dropping videos every week and I don't want you to miss them. All right, so I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.